Okay, so we're right at the top of the hour, have already hit record so that folks who are going to watch later can join us. So thank you all for being here. For those I haven't officially met, I'm Kara. I facilitate this twice a year. So this is our virtual book fair, and it's really meant to be an opportunity to connect as a community, learn from each other as published authors, and connect folks who are aspiring authors to then write and publish their books, learning from your experience. So as a 9-time published author, I think I'm a little addicted to writing, and I just love creating spaces for other authors to come in and talk about your journey, because I learn as much from you as our audience learns from you as well. So to kick us off, I have Rich with us as one of our first sponsors. We have 2 sponsors making this event possible. So Rich is going to share a little bit about what he offers to the author community, and then we will hear from our featured authors. We have 5 of them with us today. So Rich, take it away.
Thanks, Kara. Let me share my screen here really quick. So as Kara said, my name is Richard Wolf, and together with my wife, Victoria, we run a company called Wolf Design and Marketing. And we are basically all things indie authors, just like all of you. So everything from award-winning cover design, ebooks, author websites, marketing materials, marketing programs, full publishing support, full project management, you name it, we do it for indie authors. And gosh, Kara, I think this is the 4th or 5th one that we've sponsored with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're super excited to always do this. I think we've talked to at least one client from every one of these that we've done with you. So totally worth it. And we love doing whatever we can to support indie authors and those that inspire to be indie authors. But what I like to do with this is take a moment to leave you guys something that's newsworthy, noteworthy in what's going on in the world of self-publishing and with indie authors. And really quick, what I wanted to talk about, this is what I'm getting the most of right now from either people that we're working with or people that aspire to be indie authors. And that's what the heck is going on with Amazon right now. There seems to be a lot of information in the news about what's going on with them, and a lot of it's not positive. So what I wanted to share with you are some of the things that I'm hearing and some of the things you can in turn do and be proactive about as you go through your indie author journey. And the first one is author copies and quality of the books. Amazon has always prioritized retail orders over author orders. It's just one of the things they've done. When they hit their busy times of the year, it can be a very long time before you get your books. This Christmas, I was hearing 3 weeks to 4 weeks for authors to get their books. If you have an event coming up, that can be problematic. I'm also hearing a lot of issues about quality and care and packaging. I'm hearing authors are getting a lot of damaged books. Another thing is Amazon's expanded distribution program. For those of you that don't know, expanded distribution is kind of like Amazon's wholesale arm. Well, the expanded distribution limits other online retailers and booksellers to a 25% discount. So in other words, they're making 25% off a book purchase, and they don't offer returns. And what that's doing in turn is creating wholesale backlash. And indie booksellers, just because of Amazon's sheer dominance in the industry, indie wholesalers, whether it be online or physical, just don't want to deal with Amazon anymore. So expanded distribution has really taken a hit if you use them as a wholesaler for your product. Kara, you have some experience with this personally in terms of account closures, with terms of service issues, or your book being stolen, copyright issues, things like that. It's better to be proactive before your account gets closed down, because it can be a good amount of time before you get your account back with Amazon and straighten out any issues they may have. The other thing we're hearing, if you're in social media, is retail boycotts of Amazon, with kind of the anti-billionaire buzz that's going on right now. There's a lot of calls for blackout days, boycotts of Amazon completely, people dropping Prime memberships or Kindle Unlimited memberships. We're hearing more and more than that. If you're running an event as an author, get ahead of those things and have other options if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I don't want to buy from Amazon. So what it all boils down to is, do you still need Amazon as an indie author? And the answer is definitely yes, without question. We still need Amazon as an indie author. They have over 85% of the retail market, whether it be print books, ebooks, or audiobooks. So the quick answer is we still need Amazon, but it's never been a better time to consider other distribution programs, Ingram Spark, Draft to Digital, things like that. What I always like to tell authors is future-proof your distribution and be prepared now before you have to scramble later. So again, we've said some things about Amazon, but we, as indie authors, we definitely need them because this is where a bulk of our sales are coming from. But give yourself other options, and that's something that we can help you with for sure. So I'd love for you to check out our portfolio. We also offer a YouTube channel, which gives indie authors inspiration and support. And we have a free guide, Becoming an Indie Author, that I'd be happy to pass along to anybody who wants to give us their email. I'd be happy to send that along, and that will end up being a full-blown book by this fall. And again, Cara, we're totally thrilled about being part of this for, like I said, the fourth or fifth time. So I'll let you guys take it from here. I can't wait to hear some of your stories.
Thank you so much, Rich. You're such a wealth of knowledge. I know that you do all sorts of awesome things like keywords and bestseller campaigns. So there's a lot of information that Rich and his team can give the folks here in this call and beyond. So I put his one pager as well as our other sponsor, Melissa's information here in the Dropbox. And you'll hear more from Melissa here at the end of today's event. So let's go ahead and get started with our authors. First up is Alex Alejandro to some of you, Alex to some of our close friends. But Alex, would love for you to share your author journey with folks, and we'll jump in. Oh,
Thank you for having me.
There you are. Go
Thank you for
ahead.
having me. My name is Alejandro Castro, and I am honored to be here. My book's going to be coming out here later on this year. My book is called Soulful Professional: Intersections Between the Human and the Professional. This happened, this adventure started actually prior in my previous job. I was a probation officer with the state, and I was impersonated by a pedophile to get to a child. And so something happened on the professional realm that impacted me as a human because I was involved in a huge investigation and whatnot. And then fast forward, when I became a therapist, I had a client die by suicide, completed suicide after working with them for so many years. And then again, something happened in the professional realm that affected me as a human. And the more I started sharing and collaborating with a lot of professionals, I started noticing a lot of police officers, a lot of clinicians, doctors, nurses were having the same experience where something happened in the professional realm that affected them as a human. And we were taught that you compartmentalize these and you don't bring them together, but yet there's an intersection there. And so with my experience and work with professionals, I was able to I got a TED Talk, and through the TED Talk, I was able to expand my community, and so therefore I got offered the opportunity to write the book. And so, as a therapist, a licensed professional counselor, licensed addiction counselor, and being a Latino immigrant gay male, I have a whole bunch of experiences that I bring to the table that can connect other therapists, other professionals as well in this intersectionality. And so the book pretty much is real life experiences from professionals, myself, as well as you're navigating through the world of professional, there's events that happen that impact you as a human. I also share about my story about my husband. Him going through medical issues happen in the human realm that impact you in the professional realm. So it's both ways. It's the intersection as a professional affecting you as a human affecting you as a professional. And how do we navigate that and still stay committed and passionate about our purpose, our meaning and purpose and our call. So, and I called it Soulful Professional because it really, invites you to take a look within your psyche, within your soul, and see where I'm at, who I was, who I am, and who I aspire to be, and how that's evolving, how I look at challenges as strengths, and how we're able to evolve even more and more as we're becoming who we desire to become as well.
Amazing, Alex. I know that this is an opportunity for people to ask you questions if you're game for that as well.
Yes,
everything from your writing process to what it's been like to start your book. Does anyone
Correct.
have a question for Alex so far, or put it in the chat? It's an opportunity to pick the brains of authors on their journey. Anyone have a question?
I'm curious if you were nervous or intimidated to share your story publicly.
Yes, but because of my story, I've gotten contracts with federal contracts with government officials. I work with FBI, training FBI agents on the same thing, vicarious trauma. So I have learned, and Cara knows about this, the more people will be helped by my vulnerability. And so I've learned to navigate that, and it has paid off because there's something we call vicarious healing. Because I can show up and be authentic and genuine in my healing process, it gives others permission to show up with theirs and engage in the process as well. So I hold on to that. Cara and I do vicarious healing retreats for professionals, and that's what really grabbed onto, I got to do this. So for other people who need that space. So thank you for asking that. Definitely.
Other questions? Looks like Erica's just giving you some kudos here in the chat. Other questions on the journey? Alex, how about you speak to how you've been writing your book? Because I know each author's like space to do this is different. Do you want to speak to that at all?
Yes, so my writing process has been in episodes. So since I started writing, life has happened, right? And so because life has happened, has given me more content on how to elaborate. I work from a 5 domains. I work with him for the 5 domains: PERMS, physical, emotional, relational, mental, and spiritual. And so when I I started writing based on that template. I started noticing there's things in my relationship that are starting to impact me on my soulful. And so I would hit pause. And the things were happening. There were pivots in my life and my career. I closed my agency and opened up my private practice, which became much more psycho-spiritual, which fed the spiritual realm of the soulful professional. So mine has been episodes since 2022, but it's finally getting to the point where it's done. And now I just need to fix, make some adjustments. So based on, I've honored the process. I've honored my process as a writer and my process as a professional as well, so that the richness people can identify with the richness of the process of becoming.
Thank you. Other questions for Alex? We have about 2 or 3 minutes left. What was your tip for folks, Alex? I know I have a 1-pager here in the Dropbox, but a tip you had for aspiring authors?
I always one of the things that I learned through one of my writer mentors, Marshall, is like, just write what your heart feels. Don't worry about editing at the moment that you're writing, because at the moment when I started talking about my personal life, I started writing where I'm like, wait a minute, do I want this out there? At that moment, it was charged, it was passionate, it was relevant, and I wrote it down, and I went back to do the edit. In the moment, write it, put it on paper, and then when you're ready to compartmentalize or cut and paste when you edit, honor the process of writing, honor your authenticity, honor what's coming up in the here and now, especially if you want people to really resonate with you.
Mm-hmm. Are you going self-publish or publish route for this book that's coming out?
Publish route. I'm going through the publish route. Yeah.
You want to speak to that at all? What it's been like
Yes.
so far?
It's been interesting because they've been wanting the book for a minute, and they've been honoring my process as, take your time. When is it going to come out? Because I've been doing a lot of speaking, and they're like, you really can use your book to promote. And so I wanted to honor my process, and they've been very respectful in honoring my process of writing as well, because they know the content of the book. So it's been very fluid, if you may, with communication, very open with communication, and they're very graceful with me as well. So I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know all author publisher experiences are different. So thank you for sharing that so far. So part of this virtual book fair is allowing people to have copies of the books of the authors that are featured. So I'm doing a random number generator behind the scenes, so you all can potentially be entered to win a copy of one of the author's books. So Alex, I know yours isn't published yet,
Right.
but I will be putting in the chat here momentarily the winner of your future book so that you can connect with them.
Yes.
Any final questions for Alex before we move to our second author of today's event? Feel free to put them in the chat if you're shy, or unmute. It's a cohesive enough group that we can do either for both. Any final questions? Okay, well, thank you, Alex, for being our first person of today's event. We're going to move to our second author, which is Harmony. Harmony, you have the floor. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you all. Yeah, I'm just making sure I can feel my seat and I'm just slowing down. I teach Gestalt at Naropa, and so being present and centered is part of the way I like to move in the world. I am so excited that my third book is coming out March 26th. It's titled The Awakened Therapist: Spirituality, Consciousness, and Subtle Energy in Gestalt Therapy. It really emerged from my time teaching at Naropa. I serve as lead Gestalt faculty. And yeah, I just feel like psychotherapy is really undergoing a paradigm shift right now. And I'm really excited to be a part of the field and contribute the curriculum at Naropa to the greater field of psychotherapy. Why am I so nervous? Let me shake it off over here.
You're all good. I know everyone's like, oh my gosh, I write a book, but then talking about it is a whole different thing.
So true. Writing is such a solitary, like isolating experience, and then to come out and share it with the world is really big. Yeah, and so my first book, I actually started writing about 20 years ago when I was just finishing my undergraduate degree. And I had this inspiration, this like I could tell that there was a book inside of me that wanted to come. And I tried so hard to write it for about 20 years. And it wasn't until I actually met Melissa, who's here right now, who encouraged me to make it into a memoir. And I really was relating to what Alex was saying about not thinking about who's going to read it, just get the story out, because that's part of the process. It's part of the developing of the content. And yeah, so it's a really vulnerable self-help memoir, and it's really about my story of coming back home to myself. And it's titled Reveal, Embody the True Self Beyond Trauma and Conditioning. And then about 2 years later, I published my second book titled Align, Living and Loving from the True Self. And it's a self-help book. And even though all three of my books are in different genres, they all have a central theme of listening to our innate wisdom as the guide for our healing. Yeah, and so I'll just share my first book I did self-publish, and that was a whole journey. I was listening to Richard, and, and I imagine Melissa will have some things to say about that too, but navigating the self-publishing world as a first-time author was quite a feat. But what I learned in that experience is that the developmental process of writing a book is really special. It's like the book is starting to get formulated. Nobody else has it yet. It's still like in the crafting phase, and I really love the developmental phase of writing. As I was saying before, putting it out into the world is super vulnerable for me. It still is. It's my third book, and on one side, I really love the discomfort. On the other side, I wonder, when is this going to get easier? And then my second book has a smaller publisher, Mantra Books. And then my third book is published by Routledge, which is a bigger publisher. So yeah, I think that's all from me. If there's any questions, I'm open to answering them. That's a good question, Xander. What is the paradigm shift happening in psychotherapy right now? What I'm seeing is that there is such a there's such a need for really understanding how to meet the demands of modern day existence in the container of the counseling container. And I'm finding that when I first became a therapist about 20 years ago, speaking about spirituality had this sort of overlap of a connotation with religion. And there wasn't as much of an understanding of spirituality as an innate quality that actually guides our clients' healing. And so I'm finding that more and more therapists are really interested in learning how to honor our clients' wisdom, as opposed to the old paradigm of therapist as expert.
Amazing. Looks like you have a question here in the chat too, as well, Harmony, from Erica. I'm curious how you went about getting a publisher for your second book.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. Yeah, for my second book, like like any other modern person, I Googled it. Find a good publisher. And I submitted book proposals to, I think, about 4 different publishers, and putting myself out there was super vulnerable. And of course, I wanted everybody to want to publish my book. But the first person, or the first company that responded, I wanted a quick turnaround for my acceptance. And so I said yes. And it was really exciting to have the editorial board see the value in what I had written. It felt so affirming to me. It was so exciting.
So you sent them a proposal for your second book. They didn't necessarily want to see your first book, or did they want to see your
No, they didn't. They just wanted to know how many copies I sold.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
And how has it been to work with Routledge so far, if you're allowed to share?
Yeah, they are so organized and so amazing. I mean, having this be my 3rd time, I've just been so impressed with the systems that they have in place to support authors. It's unlike any experience I've ever had. Yeah, and the editing process too with the copy editor was really refreshing. They have a whole back end system that was really just user friendly and gave a lot of space for my process.
It's always nice to hear with publishers, again, so different for each person. I'm so glad you had the self-publish and then publisher experiences. That's such a wealth of knowledge to share with us.
Thank you.
Other questions for Melissa? Or Harmony, excuse me. I'm looking at
Okay.
Melissa. Any questions? When is your next book coming out? The one with Routledge?
It comes out March 26th, and it's actually
Oh my
available
gosh.
for pre-order tomorrow. Mhm.
Yay! We'll have to
Yay.
make sure I get that link to send to everybody so that we can make sure they get that.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Thanks so much.
Anything that you can speak to of like your writing process? I know that tends to be the most common question I get as someone who does workshops for therapists of like, where do you find time to write? How do you write? Anything you want to share there?
Yeah, I get that question a lot too. Before I published my first book, writing felt very precious to me. Like I needed to go on a retreat and write and have nobody talk to me for a week or so. I have 2 children, and I have a private practice, and I teach at Naropa. So I just now I just come into my office and I write every day. I'm actually writing 2 books right now. And it just became part of my daily work life, and if somebody comes in and interrupts me, that's fine. I just come back to it. So, yeah, to me, well, the other thing too is when I go for walks, I like to take a lot of voice notes, because to me, like the movement and the exercise starts to generate the ideas. But as I was saying before, I find the developmental process to be the most exciting. Once I know somebody else has looked at it, I look at it completely differently, which I can imagine others can relate to. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you. What is your one piece of advice for authors? I know we have a handout here, but anything you want to reiterate here?
Yeah, my piece of advice is that even if your mind is telling you that you shouldn't see this through. I hear the imposter syndrome thing come up a lot for new authors, that to really listen to what's wanting to come through you and just give yourself space to be in that process, and to not worry about what's going to happen with that writing, to just allow yourself the space to be creative. I think that's just so important, especially as psychotherapists, to like have something that feeds us and allows us to process too.
Thank you so much, Harmony. This has been amazing. I want to announce that Hannah is the winner of one of your books. You all can decide which one, but Hannah is just won the raffle for Harmony's book. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move to our 3rd author for today's event. It kind of goes quickly, but you're still getting lots of information. So our 3rd author for today is Xander. Xander, thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you. Well, Cara, thank you also first for just inviting me. It's quite an honor to be able to be here, especially with esteemed colleagues. So it's good to be with you all. Wow. Okay. So much to say. I set a timer. I'll be on time. Well, my name is Xander Keg. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I am in Orlando, Florida, and I'm not a writer. I didn't write my book, and I'll explain what I mean in a little bit. I'm a speaker. Going into social work was a natural fit for me, although it was not my first career. It was my third. I was in the military and then law enforcement, but this my ability to speak was honed starting at the age of 10. My father was, if you're familiar with EST, he was an EST trainer back in the days in the early 80s in Los Angeles, California, and he enrolled me in Kids EST. And so I grew up in EST, and there's a lot of speaking. And I also got sent home a lot with notes from my teachers saying, talks too much in class. So I'm a talker, not a writer. And so I started speaking on speakers panels in 1987 as a member at the time of a very young, I was 20 years old, member of at the time, the gay and lesbian community. It's, things are different now, the different letters that we use. And I was a member of that community. Well, I still am. And I was invited to be on these speakers panels. And so I would go to classrooms and boardrooms and churches and different places to tell my story. And pretty soon thereafter, people started telling me, you should write a book. You have such an interesting story. You should write a book. And I would say, what's so interesting about it? Like, what's so interesting about my story? But it turns out that, we all have interesting stories to tell. And whether we know it or not, believe it or not, I truly believe that we have a unique story that we can tell that will resonate with other people, that will help other people, that will motivate other people, provide guidance perhaps to other people. And so I just kind of let it go in one ear and out the other for about 20, 25 years. You should write a book. You should write a book. And I would say, oh, I'm not really a writer. I'm a talker. And about 5 years ago, my father developed dementia. And all of a sudden, it became really important to me to hold on to stories and to have memories that weren't just in my brain or just in my father's brain, that were on paper, that were on video, that were audio recorded, something. Get the stories from my father. And then I thought, well, what about my stories? I better get those down too, because, my brain might not work for the rest of my life either. And so I thought, okay, now's the time. I'm going to write a book. Oh my God, what a struggle that was for me, quite honestly, to sit at a computer and type out stories after I'd just been writing chart notes all day long for my clients or patients, as we refer to them, when I worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs, Health Administration, working with homeless veterans, constant talking and typing, but mostly typing all day long. And I was like, I am not going to spend my free time on my computer typing. I'm just not going to do it. And so I put aside this idea of writing a book. And then I have this friend, his name is Mike Robbins, and he's written about 5 or 6 books. And he told me this story about how by his third book, he stopped actually writing them or typing them up and he started talking them. He started talking his book. I said, what do you mean talking your book? And he said, I got some software and it records me and it creates a manuscript, right? It's a transcript, which we can convert into a manuscript. And I said, oh, that's definitely for me. I can talk a book rather than type a book. And he said, okay, so you get this software, you load it to your computer, and you talk into it, and it will create a transcript, and then you have to edit it. And I was like, oh, wait, what? No. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to read through this thing and edit it. So I put it aside again. And then I discovered that there are actually publishers out there who will not only take typed manuscripts, but they will take talked manuscripts and they'll edit it for you. Or they'll even record you and then they'll edit what they record. And so that's what I decided to do. I went with a publisher who provided me with interviewers, and in Zoom rooms, they asked me question after question after question for about 14, 15 weeks, about an hour each time. And I told a bunch of stories. And then they got edited into the book called The Third Space, A Nonconformist Guide to the Universe, where I'm telling my stories about being, in general, a nonconformist in almost every way possible. And what I did was I thought, I don't want to just tell my stories. I want them to have some sort of meaning for other people, not just a like voyeuristic peering into my life, but like, how can I write something, right? Like Alex was talking, right? And also Harmony, like, how can I put something into a book that other people can take benefit from, that they can apply to their own lives, not just be curious about my life or learn about my life. And so what I did is I took the foundation or the nuts and bolts of what I do as a licensed clinical social worker, which is psychoeducation, right? Teaching people how to take care of themselves, how to regulate their emotions, how to tolerate distress, how to mitigate conflict, how to manage stress, how to just navigate through the inevitable stressors and strains of life. And so I took my stories of being a nonconformist and all of the attention that brings, which is not all positive. It also brings negative attention. People don't like nonconformists, generally speaking, unless you are one yourself, unless you're going against them, if they're a bit more authoritarian in their nonconformity. And so what I did was I said, okay, these are all the different ways that I defied the norms and the social mores and violated the taboos. And these are the consequences that I faced. And this is how I navigated those consequences. Right? This is how I did it. And so I just tell stories. And I include stories that involve my father, who was a wonderful man who passed last year. I took care of him for the last 5 years of his life, and it was a true gift to be able to do that. And I had hoped that the book would come out. It was published last year, April of last year. My father passed at the end of February. I really wanted to have him hold it in his hands, even though he wouldn't have been able to read it or comprehend it. But I just wanted him to have it. But I missed that deadline. But it's been a true life-changing experience for me in many ways, because I got to basically put it all out there. And people say to me, "Are you going to write another book?" And I'm like, "Nope, that's it. That's it." I've actually been approached by 3 different academic publishers. When you get an award like Social Worker of the Year, which I did from the NASW in 2020, they come out of the woodworks. Publish a book with us, publish a book with us. And I turned them all down. One was Rutledge, right? I turned them down because that's not what I want to do. I'm not an academic writer. But it did sort of get the ball rolling for me in those final days of I better get something out there into the world. And it's been wonderful. It hasn't led to big jobs like Alex, because I'm not pursuing those. But I would hope that if I wanted to, I could do that. So it's helpful to have that in my back pocket. So I'm glad to know that. So yeah, so I'm almost out of my 10 minutes. There might not be enough time for questions, but I really enjoyed being able to tell you my story.
Amazing, Xander. Well, we do have a little bit of time, like 1 or maybe 2 questions, depending on length of question. You have questions for Xander. So much there. Burning questions. What's your advice for all these aspiring authors who are like, yes, I want to write a book? I love that you're like, that's not me. But any advice you have for them?
Yeah, I mean, I guess writing a book doesn't mean that you're typing it, right? Like creating a book can be done in a multitude of ways. And so think about all the different ways that are better for you to capture what you want to capture. I like what Alex said about not editing, as you're writing. the way that the publisher described it to me when I was talking about, when I was saying I want to do my book in this version, I want to talk my book, is they said, when you listen to your favorite music artist on the radio, or if you're playing the album, it's an enjoyable experience. But when you go to the concert, it's even a much better experience. And so there's something about my ability to talk my book made it more like experiencing a concert than listening to the album, because if I wrote my book, it would be flatter, right? It wouldn't have the same dynamism or dynamics or depth that it has, because I don't write that way. I'm a very technical writer. So yeah, so do it the way you want to do it, and don't let anybody tell you, if you don't actually put pencil to paper or fingertips to keys, you're not actually a writer.
Beautifully said. And Melissa shared she uses a software, a words dictation feature. So lots of people normalizing that it doesn't have to be typed. Thank you so much, Xander. I want to announce that Jenny is the winner of Xander's book. So Jenny, I'll connect you to Xander after this event. And we're going to move to our next author, which is Catherine. Catherine, thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. So my name is Catherine Moore. I am a licensed clinical social worker based in Southern California. I also do speaking and podcasting, and I have a book also. So this is the Social Work Clinical Supervision Log that came out last year. And I love how everybody here has spoken about the process, because it always seems like when I see a new author, they say, hey, surprise, I have a book. Like they just kind of birthed this book out of nowhere. But I love to hear the backstories about how it takes a long time, right? To come up with the concept, with the design, with what do you want to talk about, with the value that you want to add. And I love that this is being normalized here in this space, because that's how it was for me too. So I came up with this idea because when I was a clinical supervisor, I really wanted something to give to my supervisees that would help them stay organized. Because I found when I just started out very quickly that they would arrive to the meetings and just kind of stare at me and wait for me to lead the meeting. And I'm more of a, hey, this is your supervision. Please bring things to me. Bring your experiences. Bring your questions. You need to be doing the research into what is out there, what is available. And they're just kind of like deer in the headlights. So I created this log as a way to guide the meetings. And I reflected back on what was it that I found helpful in my own supervision. And I just use an old-fashioned planner. And on the days that I was going to have supervision, I would write down my questions that I needed to ask my supervisor for that day. And that's what I did. And then I would take notes on follow-up weeks, but it was very basic, which was fine. But then I also kind of remembered I really needed more. I needed more organization. I had no idea what my hours were. Like it was a mess. It was not organized at all. It was a mess. And so I just wanted better for the clinicians that I'm working with now, something to make it super easy. So that's exactly what I did. So I just have this different log, broken down by days and hours. And then there's topics to discuss, priority items for follow-up, and then what are we going to follow up on next week? And it helps to hold them accountable. And then I also added this resource section in the back, and it's full of tools that I had in my own folder. They were just papers and handouts that I would carry around with me when I would go to client sessions. And they were cheat sheets and therapeutic interventions and maybe questions I might be able to ask, or warning signs of X, Y, and Z. And so I was, the process for me was, okay, what was it that I needed? What's going to be helpful? What am I seeing right now in the field that is of need? And also, how do I combine this all? So I already had some templates that I had used for the courses that I had created for social workers, things like a CBT cheat sheet or an interventions cheat sheet, things like that. So I had this all in Canva, and that's where I made pretty much everything. Is I did the interior in Canva, and I used that design And then I just went on and I'll be honest, the cover, I'm not a graphic designer, as you can tell. So that was one of the feedback that I got is after I published it is, okay, we gotta do something about this cover. So I'm currently working on a more captivating and engaging cover. But I would have never known these things had I not actually done it, had I not actually published it. And so that's been my journey as far as, how I came up with it, the process, how I created it. And then I'll be honest, I just went to Kindle Direct Publishing because that seemed to be the simplest place and the place that is easy for people to reference and to find and to be able to access it. And so the hardest part for me was figuring out the sizing and the templates and things. But once I got the template down, it was easy peasy. And then just getting it out there. So I sent a couple books to some fellow social workers who are supervisors or who are associates in the field just to get their feedback. So I do have some ideas around what else is going to be in version 2, probably in time for graduation. I'm thinking May of this year, I'll update it for version 2. And if you're interested in just publishing any kind of book, I would say just get started. It's a process. Write down or talk out what it is that you're thinking. What are your ideas? It was super helpful for me also to talk to other people that are in the same space that I'm in so that you can really work out what the ideas are and say, hey, this is my idea and my concept. What do you think about this? And they'll say, oh my gosh, yes, I love it. And what about this? And that's where you can really grow and expand on your ideas and really see them bloom out into something that's going to be extremely helpful and possibly life-changing for other people. So that would be my tip is to just get started, just get out there and start talking about it, start putting pen to paper, fingertips to keyboard, or voice to text, whatever works for you.
Beautifully said, Catherine. I'm curious if you're comfortable telling us what the new cover is going to look like, since that's what you're working on with this version too.
It is in process. So I have some designs out
I
there
haven't decided.
to other to other social workers. And the feedback I got was like, oh, that's okay. So it's in process. If you all have any ideas, I am open to feedback.
I know that's usually like one of the things authors fixate on is like, what's the cover going to look like? And it's kind of one of the fun parts. So happy to put you on the spot, but it sounds like you're still chewing on it.
I did not let that stop me because I would have just been sitting on the cover forever. And I'm just like, okay, black is professional. You can carry it around, whatever. But we're going to have different covers out soon. More fun ones.
Harmony is asking, is this book applicable to LPC candidates as well?
Yes, it is. Really, the thing that makes it social work specific is I put in there the NASW Code of Ethics, and I think there was like the macro issues of social work. But other than that, it's completely applicable because it does break down the clinical hours, the admin hours, the supervision hours, all on the same page, and you can take notes. And all of the interventions are going to be the same, the types of documentation using CBT. And so that is another area that I'd like to expand to, is also to include the counselors and the LMFTs and be able to create specific books for them that do include their code of ethics and specific, things that might apply to their industry.
Xander's giving you some ideas here in the chat about cover design if you want them. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Considered the abstract. Thank you, Xander. I'll take another look at that.
Play with that a little bit. I also have contacts for you, Catherine, if you want someone who does cover design. So you can play with a couple iterations.
That'd be great.
The winner of Catherine's book is Alex. So I'll make sure to connect you both after this event. Thank you so much, Catherine. Our last author of the day is Hannah. Hannah, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you so much, Kara. I'm so happy to be here with all of you and hear your stories. It's really fun to just hear everybody's different process and how we're all wired very differently. So I feel very fortunate because Kara is actually the one who led me through my whole author journey. This is my first book that I've written, and this is Kara's 9th book that she has written. And we wrote a book called Your Enneagram and Money. Transforming Enneagram edges into financial freedom. And so my background is I'm a licensed professional counselor and I do Enneagram coaching. So is there anybody who doesn't know what the Enneagram is here? I can explain it. Okay, so I'll get to it in a second. But basically, it's a personality tool based off of 9 different archetypes. So it proposes that there's 9 different types of personalities in our world, and each of us fall into one of those categories. And it's based off of motivation. So why do you actually do what you do? Behaviors can look really similar across types, but there's a different motivation for why everybody does what they do. And so Kara is the one who really had the idea to begin with. And she just cold emailed me one day and said, hey, I am learning more about the Enneagram. I'm a financial therapist. I would love to write a book about this because there's really nothing in this space, which was surprising to me because the Enneagram world is so oversaturated with content. I just truly never thought I was going to have the opportunity to write in the Enneagram space. And so partnering with her allowed me to step into that. And so I totally believed in the idea, loved it. And yeah, we got to talk about how your personality influences your relationship with money and actually how to heal your relationship with money based off of that and based off of how you're wired and your strengths and your own individual challenges and all of that. And so I feel like I had not a typical first author experience because I had someone who knew the way very well, who was helping me navigate it. But I did love working with our publisher. We worked with Journey Institute Press. And I think for my limited experience of authorship, it does make a big difference who your publisher is and how you communicate with them. So I think that's really important. I love everybody's advice as far as there's never a right time to do it. And something I want to talk about today that'll give you kind of a taste of what our book is and what the Enneagram is, and also just what everybody brings to, or what everybody can bring to authorship, because I feel like a lot of people think that maybe their idea is redundant, or like the imposter syndrome, or people have a hard time just taking up space and owning their voice. And so I actually want to do something a little bit different than what everybody else did, but talk about the Enneagram and why each type would be a really great author. Because I think that each of us can bring something really special to the space. And then you'll get to know a little bit about the Enneagram too. So the 9 different types, just really briefly. So type 1 is the perfectionist, sometimes called the perfectionist, and their core motivation, the thing that that they aspire to do every day, is to be good and right. So I think as authors, ones are incredibly detail oriented. They are going to produce something that is really, really well done. They have high ideals. They like to learn the right way to do something and then share that with other people. So I think it's really important for ones to be able to share everything that they've learned with other people and help inspire other people to do either something in the professional world or just even personally. I think it can be really inspirational. And I think for ones also, it's a really cool opportunity for them to share what they've learned with others, and they'll find that really fulfilling. So then type 2, they are sometimes called the helper. They are motivated by being liked and sometimes being needed. They really like to help other people. So I'm sure a lot of people in the helping profession either are 2s or know somebody who is a 2. But 2s would be incredible authors, or are incredible authors, because they really cater to their audience. They really know what people need to hear and want to hear. And I think that they'll really give them something that they love. twos have a genuine desire to help people feel better and learn something new. And so that's something that they can provide other people through authorship. And for twos, it's an opportunity for them to prioritize something that they really want to do. I think that it's really hard for twos to recognize their own needs and take time for themselves. And so by writing a book, you actually are doing something that you really care about, and you're having to set boundaries and take time for yourself. So I think it's a really good growth opportunity as well. For type threes are sometimes called the achiever. They have a core motivation to be valued and approved of. It's similar to the twos, that they do want to be liked, but it's really about being valued at the end of the day. And threes are great authors because, man, they can meet deadlines with ease. They are going to be able to get everything done on a timely manner. It's really fun. Like, I'm a three, and so it's really fun for me because this was a really great bucket list thing that I just wanted to do in my life. And so it's really fun to be able to set a goal and be able to achieve it, and it's all measurable. So that just feels really good as a three. And then it's an opportunity to inspire and motivate others rather than just using our skills for efficiency and being able to get stuff done for ourselves. And so I think it's a way for threes to be able to give back to other people. For Enneagram type fours, they're the individualists. So they have a core motivation to be significant, but also to be really understood. Fours are very emotionally intelligent. And so I think for fours, they're able to move their audience emotionally through language. It's an opportunity for them to practice their creativity. I also think that for a lot of people, we find it really difficult to articulate certain experiences or certain thoughts. And so I think fours can help give language to other people who may not be able to actually, give language to their own experience. And then for fours, it's an opportunity to demonstrate and express their inner world to others, which is really helpful for type fours. For fives, they're sometimes called the investigator. Their core need is to be competent. And so for fives who are writing a book, they're going to be they're going to be able to take the niche knowledge that they understand really, really well and articulate that in a way that's palatable for other people. I think that they are going to dedicate so time and energy can feel really elusive for fives. And so they're able to take the limited and the precious energy and resources that they have and really pour it into something that's going to be a masterpiece. I think that anything a five produces is going to be a really well done work. And they have the ability to enter into and kind of indulge in their inner world, which they love, but then they also have a hard time sharing that with others. And so this is a growth opportunity for fives as authors to be able to really share their inner world with other people, which can feel really difficult. And so it's a more safe way to be able to do that. For type sixes, their core motivation is to feel safe and secure. They're sometimes referred to as the loyalist. They're very community oriented. They're going to research, they're going to establish authority really well as authors. They are going to know their data and be able to share facts and give really, just give really solid information in their writing style. It's an opportunity for them to own their own authority, which can feel really hard. I think sixes look to other authorities often, but they sometimes have a hard time trusting their inner authority. So I think for sixes who are stepping into authorship, it's a really great way for them to find their own voice and to really step into their power in that way. And they get to contribute to their community, which they love. Sixes want to make an impact and they want to make a difference. And so by writing a book as a six, it's a really great opportunity for you to do that. Type sevens are the enthusiasts, so they want to have fun and they want to be free. Sevens are full of ideas. They are normally big picture people, so they can really inspire other people through storytelling and through writing. I think that they bring a different perspective and help people feel hope and excitement about the future, which can feel really hard for some people. And for sevens, it's an opportunity for them to focus and to trust that the outcome of something is going to be just as rewarding as the process. I think sevens can sometimes struggle to like commit and follow through because they have big ideas, and they are most effective truly when they're able to just kind of bounce on and continue coming up with new ideas. And so it's really an opportunity for sevens to be able to practice following through and really sticking with something all the way, and experiencing the joy of that process. For eights, Xander, I don't know what your type is, but eights are nonconformists. So this is the challenger type, and they like to be in control, and they like to protect. They love to use their power to protect themselves and other people. And so I think that eights as authors bring a really refreshing dose of honesty and boldness to their work. They're able to say things that that other people might struggle to say, and there's not going to be fluff in their writing. Like, it's going to be really good, and it's going to get to like the good stuff fast. Eights have a ton of energy, so I think this is like a really good opportunity for eights to channel their energy, to motivate others and to challenge other people's thinking. And it's an opportunity for eights to be vulnerable, which can sometimes feel like a struggle, and to also give back to other people. And then finally, type 9 is the mediator. Their core motivation is to be at peace, both internally and externally. Nines are inclusive, they're thoughtful, they can be really vulnerable. So I think they bring that writing style and can connect with their audience in a way that some of the other types might struggle to. They are probably going to have an ability to sit in the process of writing and just everything it involves better than some of the other types because they're more comfortable with that nuance. And it's an opportunity for them, kind of similar to twos, to connect with their own needs and desires, and take up space, which can feel really difficult sometimes. So similar to kind of how you can see there's some overlap, but each type is really unique in what they bring. That's kind of how the book is as well. And as far as how you relate to money, how you might think about money, and how you can use your specific strengths to overcome your money challenges.
Thank you, Hannah. That was awesome to hear how each of these types would show up as an author. I saw people taking notes, so hopefully that's going to help them connect with other authors that way. I know we're winding down for today's event, and I want to introduce our second sponsor and make sure that Melissa has a chance to talk with you all. So thank you, Hannah. And Harmony, you're actually the winner of Hannah and Maya's books, so I'll connect you with Hannah. But Melissa, would love to hear what you do for authors. We've heard a theme of sometimes it's navigable, sometimes it's overwhelmed. And I would love for you all to get to know Melissa. Melissa, thanks for sponsoring.
Hi, how are you? This has been so cool because all the books are so unique and different from each other. It's been really cool hearing about everybody's journey. And by the way, I'm an Enneagram 4, I think, and we're pretty good at editing too. Like helping other people sort of communicate their own lived experiences. So my name is Melissa. I call myself the self-help book coach because I've basically been doing this for, I think by now, 21 years or something, working exclusively with self-help and wellness content. And I started doing that working at New Harbinger Publications in 2003, which is a well-known, respected, independent psychology publishing company. So I was the acquisitions editor there. So I learned a lot about what works as a self-help book and what doesn't. So now I do that work just one-on-one with clients, just working for myself. And I consider myself a collaborator with my clients. So I'm not just an editor, I'm actually a book coach and a publishing consultant and a collaborator. So I like to start with my clients before they even start writing the book, because in this genre, in self-help and wellness and transformational books, the books really need a lot of pre-planning in order to be truly transformational. So I started out like working with manuscripts where they were already finished, but they just needed, like, you basically needed to start over. So I decided that that's so disheartening for an author to hear that this isn't really working. So I started to pivot in my business to really encouraging people to work with me before they even started writing, because so we can plan out what is going to work well, and starting with the author's goals for what they want to accomplish with the book. So it might be a business goal or a personal goal. They might have a whole plan for a content strategy for their therapy business or practice. So I start there. I say, what do you want to accomplish with writing this book, and with any future content you want to create? And then we just start talking about, well, who are the people that you're trying to reach? What transformation do you want them to have with this book? What do they think their problem is? Because they don't quite know what you know yet. So let's start there. Where are they now? And then we're going to take them from where they are now to where you want them to be at the end of the book. So we really just kind of go through the whole, it's like engineering a book, and the writing doesn't even start for several steps in the process. So first you got to figure out what the topic is, look at what the other books on the topic are out there, do the market research. And so the book is going to really fit a niche in the market that already exists. So anyway, it's just this whole, and it's so much fun because I get to it's just problem solving in this really neat, creative way, working with somebody else to really just kind of create this signature kind of message that they're, trying to put out there in the world to change the world. So I love it. And I have a YouTube channel. I have a bunch of free resources for anybody who wants to learn more about me. It's just the selfhelpbookcoach.com. And yeah, I think that's all. I don't know if anybody have any questions.
Thank you, Melissa. I'll make sure everybody has access to the Dropbox link so they can reach your one-pager that we put together. Thank you both to Melissa and Rich for sponsoring this event. It really fills my soul to see so many authors come together and hear their stories, and you make that possible. We will do this again in September of 2025, so hope you'll all join us for featuring other authors and hearing their journeys from here forward. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. This concludes our event. Take care.